Acharya Soter Srishimad, His Divine Grace, Abhay Charya Lavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, UT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Soter Srishimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Harinasta Kodara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru, Sri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurue Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vishwabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mare Kabando Mat Sangin Mad Guru Man Madana Mad Nistaraka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute Asadu Sadhu Tadayanati Nicho Tatakana Muncha Karachinmam Premno Hrit Katayos Puraha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. I'd like to welcome Ramanam Prabhu, my dear friend. Miss very much. Happy to see you. I'd like to welcome Casey. Hare Krishna. Always happy to see you. You're not foreign to us, but this is not really a class you generally come to, so we're happy to have you. We'd like to welcome Anju. I don't think I've ever seen you at this class, so happy to have you. Thank you for your help with the college, by the way. So, and Jamuna, Guranga, and Chris are our regulars. Welcome also. So today's a very special day for our Sangha. Today we'll be starting the prayers of Queen Kunti. Very, very, very powerful and special part of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'd say this is some of the most, this is one of the Prabhupada's favorite parts of the Bhagavatam. It's very famous, very deep, very beautiful, loving, and sweet prayers rendered to Krishna by Queen Kunti. So we'll do a little review, and then we'll jump right on in. So I'll do my review every time here. We'll go back from the beginning just to give us a context. So we're starting out with the prelude of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the very first 3 verses of the prelude of Srimad Bhagavatam. First verse is defining the absolute truth, then glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then the invitation to taste the sweetness of the Bhagavatam. That is the overlying prelude to the whole Bhagavatam. And then there are 6 questions. What is the ultimate good for humanity? What is the essence of all scriptures? What is the purpose of Krishna's appearance? What about the avatars, Leela avatars? Shelter for religion after Krishna's disappearance? Those 6 questions are asked. And various answers are described throughout the various first 6 chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam. So then you hear about history of Srimad Bhagavatam. The first canto deals mainly with the history of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not actually the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam begins in the second canto. So the first canto is really an introduction to the Bhagavatam, where it is giving a history of how the Bhagavatam came to be. What is the qualification to hear the Bhagavatam? What is the qualification to speak the Bhagavatam? So we hear about Vyasadeva and his dissatisfaction because he was not engaging in devotional service. He was, although so learned, he wasn't doing devotional service, so he was dissatisfied. Then Narada comes in instruction. Vyasadeva compels the Srimad Bhagavatam. Certain questions are asked. Now we're hearing about some history. Maharaj Parikshit's birth and activities, and the meeting with Shukadeva Goswami, starting with the first chapter, the seventh chapter, the events leading to Parikshit's birth. We hear about the battle between the Dronacharya, son of Dronacharya, Ashwatthama, and Arjuna. The Brahmastra was thrown. All these events happened. And here's where we're at now. So we previously were hearing about how after the Battle of Kurukshetra, Ashwatthama, in spite, murdered the 6 sleeping sons of the Pandavas, and in cold blood. And he was thinking he was murdering the Pandavas, and he was pretty much shunned by everybody, including his own master Duryodhana. And so then Ashwatthama was chased down by Arjuna and Krishna, captured, tied like an animal, and then there was a debate what to do with him. Bhima wanted to kill him. Yudhishthira said, "Oh, he's a Brahmana." Draupadi wanted to save him because she'd wanted the mother of Ashwatthama, Kripi, to go through the same thing as. Am I right, Amanju? You look like
Kripacharya is her brother.
Not Kripacharya. Kripi is the wife of Dronacharya.
So I mean, Kripi's brother is Kripacharya.
Yeah.
I think Dronacharya is brother-in-law of Kripacharya.
We'll have to make sure. I'll make sure actually. Make sure that's Majmoon, am I right? Yeah. Would be right.
Yeah, because I remember it sounded like creepy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Could be. Okay, so. And so then they decided that Arjuna was being tested by Krishna. And the conclusion was that they didn't kill him. They chopped his hair off. And they chopped the jewel that was on his head, and they let him free to wander around the world. And so now we're coming to the prayers of Queen Kunti. And we actually have quite a lot of time. We're probably not going to get to the actual prayers of Queen Kunti today. So without anything else, we'll start reading from here. Start reading. Prayers of Queen Kunti. 181. Sutta uvacha atate samparetanam swanam udakam ichatam datum sa Krishna gangayam purukritya yayustriyaha. So someone can read. Sutta Goswami said, thereafter the Pandavas, desiring to deliver water to the dead relatives who had desired it, went to the Ganges with Draupadi. Ladies walked in front. Prabhupada's making the point that it is the custom of Hindus to take a bath in the river, sacred river, when a family member dies, and then they offer, Ganges water to the departed souls. So this is it's a standard tradition. When someone dies, we all have death traditions. And Krishna was also present because he's related to the Pandavas. He's their cousin. The Pandavas' mother Kunti, which we'll find out today, is the brother of Krishna's father Vasudeva. Text 2. Te nina yodakam sarve vilapya cha brishampuna apluta hari parabja rajaputa sarij jale. Having lamented over them and sufficiently offered Ganges water, they bathed in the Ganges, whose water is sanctified due to being mixed with the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. So the Ganges is a holy river because when Lord Vamanadev expanded, he kicked a hole in the universe, and that's when the Ganges water fell through and then is flowing down into this planet from higher dimensions to lower dimensions. It could be noted that once when I was in Mayapur, I was bathing in the Ganges. And it's a wonderful thing to bathe in the Ganges. And I was, Krishna is so reciprocal, it's very mystical. And I was in the Ganges and I was, in a very sacred and, deep mood. And I was thinking about, my hands like this. And I was just meditating how this water is the water that bathed Krishna's lotus feet. And I opened my eyes and a glob of Tulsi Manjari just flowed right into my hands. And it was mind blowing because what's always at Krishna's lotus feet? Tulsi Manjaris. So it was just Krishna just like confirming that this is a real thing. And if you bathe in the Ganges, and if you're sensitive enough, you'll notice how the subtle energies are cleansed. And you feel very healthy and happy and clear-minded after a bath in the Ganges. Even thinking of the Ganges, if you're subtle enough, you're sensitive enough, the subtle energies can purify you. So very powerful. Text 3. Wait, we're on text 2, no? 3. Okay, yeah. Tatra sinam kurupatin dhritarashtam sahanjana gandharim putra shokartam pritam krishnam chamadavaha. There sat the king of the Kurus, Maharaj Yudhisthira, along with his younger brothers, and Dhritarashtra, Gandhar, Kunti, and Draupadi, all overwhelmed with grief. Lord Krishna was also there. By the way, so that the devotees who are not our normals know, this class is Satam Prasangam, Mamavirya Samvido. It's meant for discussion, meant to be discussed. It's not like a class, it's actually a discussion group. So, the purport. The Battle of Kurukshetra was fought between family members, and thus all affected persons who were also family members like Maharaj Yudhisthira and brothers Kunti, Draupadi, Subhadra, Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, and her daughters-in-law, etc. All the principal dead bodies were in some way or other related with each other, and therefore the family grief was combined. Lord Krishna was also one of them as a cousin of the Pandavas and nephew of Kunti, as well as brother of Subhadra. The Lord, therefore, was equally sympathetic toward all of them, and therefore he began to pacify them befittingly. So you can imagine the scene here. These 600,000 people have just been killed in the Battle of Kurukshetra. And now there is a mourning time that is taking place, and Krishna is going to pacify them. So this is a nice verse here. Santavyama samunibir hata bandhun sucharpitan bhuteshu kalasya gatim darshana pratikriyam. Citing the stringent laws of the Almighty and the reactions upon living beings, Lord Krishna and the Munis began to pacify those who were shocked and affected. The stringent laws of nature under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be altered by any living entity. The living entities are eternally under the subjugation of the Almighty, the Lord. The Lord makes all the laws and orders, and these laws and orders are generally called dharma or religion. No one can create any religious formula. Bona fide religion is to abide by the orders of the Lord. The Lord's orders are clearly declared in the Bhagavad Gita. Everyone should follow him only as he or his orders, and that will make all happy, both materially and spiritually. As long as we are in the material world, our duty is to follow the orders of the Lord. And if by the grace of the Lord we are liberated from the clutches of the material world, then in our liberated stage also we can render transcendental loving service unto the Lord. In our material stage we can see neither ourselves nor the Lord for want of spiritual vision. But when we are liberated from material affection and are situated in our original spiritual form, we can see both ourselves and the Lord face to face. Mukti means to be reinstated in one's original spiritual status after giving up the material conception of life. Therefore, human life is especially meant for qualifying ourselves this spiritual liberty. Unfortunately, under the influence of illusory material energy, we accept this spot of life only a few years as our permanent existence and thus become illusioned by possessing so-called country, home, land, children, wife, community, wealth, etc., which are false representations created by Maya. And under the dictation of Maya, we fight with one another to protect these false possessions. By cultivating spiritual knowledge, we can realize that we have nothing to do with all this material paraphernalia. Then at once we become free from material attachment. This clearance of misgivings of material existence at once takes place by the association of the Lord's devotees, who are able to inject the transcendental sound into the depths of the bewildered heart, and thus make one practically liberated from all limitation and illusion. That is a summary of pacifying measures for those affected by the reaction of the stringent material laws exhibited in the forms of birth, death, old age, and disease, which are insoluble factors of material existence. The victims of war, namely family members of the crews, were lamenting the problems of death, and the Lord pacified them on the basis of knowledge. So here we're hearing a very intense purport of Srila Prabhupada, where he's speaking of the nature of material energy, and Krishna is speaking out of Shastra. Krishna is the source of Shastra, but just to set example for us, Krishna often cites Shastra. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, it is said in the Vedantas Shruti. So Krishna is speaking in the sense from Shastra. Krishna is the source of Shastra. So one of the big elements to understand here is that the laws of the Lord, in one sense, in the conditioned state, they are all based on Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. That in the conditioned state, we are so bewildered and covered over, we do not know what is right and what is wrong. Therefore, someone has to come to that stage, Karpanya doso pahatasva bhava, Richami tam dharma samuda chetaha, that they have to surrender like Arjuna, Shishyashtam sadimam tvam prapanam. Now I'm your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. They have to come to this stage of surrender to the spiritual master and to the instructions of a spiritual body of knowledge. So at that stage, one can actually begin to act in the proper way. Now, this is simply because we're so closed off from our heart. In the ultimate sense, the Lord is in the heart, and he's giving us direction, and we should follow the Lord in the heart. And that means acting out of love. And so we hear so many things in the world today. I've been kind of in a phase where I'm studying, not out of just curiosity, but actually I'm really trying to use certain things in my service, certain elements of subtle energies and how they flow, how they, how to create and manifest, projects and work in a better way. And one of the big common factors is people are very obsessed with, doing things in this world, and they think that these laws in themselves, that more material knowledge, even, to some degree mystic powers, manipulation of material energy is going to make them happy, when in actuality it will not make them happy, because this, no matter how powerful one is, one cannot escape birth, death, old age, and disease. And one does not know how to fully satisfy the self, that Atma supersidity. So Prabhupada speaking here that we can become absorbed in that which is temporal. And Shukadeva Goswami mirrors this in the Bhagavatam, when Maharaj Parikshit asks what to do and what not to do. The first thing he says not to do is to speak about nonsense, to be absorbed in nonsense activities and language. And then he says, Deha patya kalatra dish atma sanyashasatsapi tesham pramato nidhanam pashanapina pashati. That those materialists, they're always taking shelter of fallible soldiers, namely body, children, wife, and family. They're taking shelter of these fallible soldiers, thinking that this is going to give them satisfaction. And they're seeing that everybody is dying, but they're thinking, actually, this is not going to happen to me. And we think, well, I know I'm going to die. Everybody says that. We all know we're going to die. But they're not acting as if they're going to die. See, because if we're acting as if we're going to die, like Maharaj Parikshit had a week to live. the analogy here, the understanding is that we also have a limited amount of time. So what will we do with our time? And if we spend our time, putting our energy in other places, then we're not able to fully express our love for Krishna and have that purified state by which we can follow Krishna in the heart. And so the conclusion of this conversation that we're going to get to in the second canto between Shukadev and Parikshit, the conclusive statement is that Shukadev Goswami says that one should hear about, chant about, and remember the Lord. That's going to give one full satisfaction. This is the genuine thing that'll give one full and genuine satisfaction. This is our actual position. This is really what we want. How do I say it? Any points? It was a very nice purport. No?
I thought it was interesting that we identified like these different things, like life and like work as like false representations. And like elaborate on that.
Yeah, they're representations of Maya. They're actually representatives of Maya. I like to say, like when you go out, Maya's always trying to give us commercials. She's always trying to advertise. That's how she works. It's advertisement. You go out and you see two people together. Oh, that looks nice. Or you go into someone's house and, nice food. This is nice, or whatever situation, see money. This is nice. Or we see that this devotee's, not doing austerities like I am. This is nice. So Maya's always trying to advertise that things are going to be better on the other side. And like my Guru Maharaj speaking to me once, he said, like, people, what happens is they engage in Maya, then they realize after some time that is all nonsense. It was never real. It never existed. What I thought was genuine never existed. And then after that, they're already like engaged in it. And so it's just like, then they just got to slog their way through, the material energy until they can get that mercy to escape. So, yeah, Krishna says that the wise, they don't take shelter in that which is temporary. The wise are not taking shelter in that. Johnny, he says that it's the womb of misery. It's the womb of misery. He actually calls it. In these shlokas, I'm in a sloka studying phrase right now. It's all my Sanskrit shlokas are jumbled in my mind. I can't remember the Sanskrit. So we'll go to next text now. So now we're going to change sections. Now we're going to hear about how Maharaj Parikshit became Maharaj Parikshit. It's very powerful. Sadhaitva jata shatro swam rajam kitaveritam Katayitva sato ragya kachas parshak shatayishu. The clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yudhishthir, who had no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed, and the unscrupulous kings who joined with Duryodhana were killed by him. Others also died, their duration of life having decreased for their rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi. So someone can read some of the purport here. We have a very important, powerful, and famous purport to Srila Prabhupada here.
In the glorious days or before the advent of the age of Kali, the Brahmanas, the cows, the women, the children, and the old men were properly given protection. The protection of the Brahmanas maintains the institution of Varna and Ashrama, the most scientific culture for attainment of spiritual life. The protection of cows maintains the most miraculous form of food, milk, for example, milk for maintaining the finer tissues of the brain for understanding higher aims of life. The protection of women maintains the chastity of society, by which we can get a good generation for peace, tranquility, and progress of life. The protection of children gives the human form of life its best chance to prepare the way of liberty from material bondage. Such protection of children begins from the very day of begetting a child by the purificatory process of Bhagavata Sanga, the beginning of pure life. The protection of the old men gives them a chance to prepare themselves for better life after death. This complete outlook is based on factors leading to successful humanity, as against the civilization of polished cats and dogs. The killing of the above-mentioned innocent creatures is totally forbidden, because even by insulting them, one loses one's duration of life. In the age of Kali, they are not properly protected, and therefore the duration of life of the present generation has shortened considerably. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that when the women become unchaste for want of proper protection, there are unwanted children called Varna Samskara. To insult the chaste woman means to bring about disaster in the duration of life. Dushasana, a brother of Duryodhana, insulted Draupadi, an ideal chaste lady, and therefore the miscreants died untimely. These are some of the stringent laws of the Lord mentioned above.
Prabhupada's giving us very systematic description here of these things. Is very nice. He says, first thing is the protection of the brahmanas. He maintains the institution of varna and ashram. So one of the purposes of religion, and even in the sense organized religion, is that it is a system or a society that maintains a certain spiritual culture in the form of ritual, in the form of scripture, in the form of those serious practitioners. And that when you have individuals who are educated in the science of Krishna consciousness, then they can direct the society, they can help the society, and therefore it's necessary for the world to have a priestly class, a teacher class of spiritually enlightened individuals who are dedicated to teaching and enlightening others in Shastra. This principle has to be understood, that we are not disciples of our own minds, we are disciples of the Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas, and that they can guide us and we can become successful in life. Protection of cows maintains milk, and milk actually unlocks higher tissues in the brain to understand Krishna. This is a very big challenge to the vegan community. This is a fact. Once one devotee, my friend Mishra Bhagavan, he was asking, about these dangerous movements, and he asked this to not Pankajandri, the brother, Jananivas, who's the twin pujaris in Mayapur for so many years. Pankajandri Prabhu left his body due to COVID. But Jananivas Prabhu was very elevated soul, very, very elevated associate of Radhamadava, Panchatattva, Shringadev. These pujaris were the Shringadev's pujaris. And so Jananivas said that the vegan movement is demoniac. Sorry to vegans. This was his answer, because it minimizes the importance of cows. And Krishna is Namo Brahmanya Devya Go Brahmana Hiteyacha. Krishna is Go Brahmana Hiteyacha. He's there for cows. Shastra emphasizes the importance of cows. We have to have faith in Shastra. And I understand being vegan for health reasons, because so much dairy nowadays, it causes a lot of health issues, including in myself. So I eat very little dairy, but this movement to move away from the Vedic diet is actually the cause of demoniac nature. And so, truth be told, I know many vegans, I know many people with so many diets, and they all have problems. Everybody's sick, and it's your karma where you get sick or not. There are people who have smoked, drank, eaten abominable foods, had illicit sex every day of their life, and they're still trucking. We have the example of our, the Rolling Stones guitar player, Keith Richards. And even after the universe is destroyed, and Ashvatthama will still be there, Vyas will still be there. Kisraj will also be there, floating in the Garbhodak ocean, somewhere there, playing his guitar. So then we have the protection of women. This is one I very deeply feel strongly about. Women need to be protected, and it's something I think is very much misunderstood amongst even the Vaishnavas, because people don't know what that means to protect women. First thing we have to make sure is that we're not one of the first step in protecting women is to not be one of the antagonizers of women. It means you have to honor the Vedic system, and women are not objects of sense enjoyment. Women are servants of Krishna, especially devotee women are servants of Krishna, and the problem of sense gratification is there. Therefore, the marriage is instituted so that women aren't abused and children aren't understood, aren't abused, because the gateway to children is women. So if you can attack women, then you have the children, and when you have the children, you can manipulate a society, and the society becomes degraded because the society consists of people. People are made strong by family, and family. The center of family life is women. There's no doubt about that. The center of family life is women. So women have to be protected to maintain family life, to maintain good population. And this is the whole system of today's world, is that, we separate families, children, move out of the house at 18, and, like, just like in Nepal, children stay with the home family, their whole lives. And there's no taboo. Like if some kid is with their mom at age 27, they're considered like a loser. But actually now it's changing because none of our generation can afford a home, nor will we ever be able to afford a home. So at this time in our, this is not going to happen because the way that the economy is. So the powers that be are forcing us back into a decent civilization. But previously, when husband, wife, mother, father, children all live together, brother, that creates strength. And that also creates a community of knowledge. Family tradition is maintained. Arjuna says, those who destroy family tradition always dwell in hell.
And nowadays they are doing studies like in Harvard or big colleges, like they are doing studies on family and things like children nurtured by grandparents are more like good people, or like they do good things than just by the
Yeah, exactly. Like I always say, and it's a sad reality, the days of like in America, there's a culture like grandmas are sweet people. Grandmas are wonderful. Like grandmas, they make you food, they pray for you. There's a culture of loving your grandma. The culture's gone. Like, can you imagine? I'm serious. Like, your blue-haired feminist grandma, like what she's gonna be like. It's really, and I'm being serious. That pious, because the older people had more piety, and now the piety is so gone. That just that culture is dying. And so with this, we're entering an age of serious Varna Sankara, where the young people have no morals, and they're not going to raise their kids with morals. We can only hope that Krishna influences the younger generation, which seems to be the case, that many of the Gen Z are turning toward God, not necessarily becoming devotees, but many are turning toward Christianity, which is a very good thing for this country and for the world. But question for the group is, how does the protection of women look? What does it look like? I gave a lecture at your house the other day for like 3 hours because that was my duty.
like good marriage institution.
Okay, marriage. Anything else?
Not exploiting them.
Not exploiting. Yeah, that's the best. That's the bottom line of it. Don't exploit them. That's important. What else? Engage them in service to Krishna. They can serve Krishna. They don't have to help serve Krishna. They can serve Krishna. So The biggest thing to protect is the mind. That's the biggest thing to protect. This is the problem of today. If you observe, and I'm sharing a personal level realization. So just let that be noted. I'm not speaking directly from Shastra, but from observation that, when the mind is corrupted by propaganda, then you have girls who believe that it's okay to murder their child in the womb and that this is acceptable behavior and that this is something that is totally cool. When in all logic, it's complete evil. But the material propaganda and that propaganda of the demons is presenting that as a bona fide and valid thing. And so there's a systematic desensitization and the sanctity of the male-female relationship is being dissolved. Like I just heard this nice thing recently, like for sex, you can say sex is sacred energy exchange. Sex means sacred energy exchange because people don't think of it that way. And so people understood this, then they wouldn't be so loose with this energy. And this energy, there's so much going on emotionally, psychologically, that happens during this. It's actually factually the most powerful samskaras that can possibly happen to a human being. And so when this energy is abused and when that concept, we're hearing about Garbhadhan Samskar to assure that there's good population born. So this consciousness is being totally degraded into the level of sense gratification and lust. And so when the population thinks that this is okay, and in fact women are encouraged to dress unchaste and all these things. And so we have to understand that those people who are protecting women, namely the men, they have a very strong mind. Women have a very soft mind. Women are very soft-hearted, very open. They're meant to receive. And so unless individuals are very strong in their convictions and have a very serious air to maintain that morality and with care and love create attachment. The women should be attached to their protectors out of love so that they will know what is right and what is wrong and be moral and be chaste. And in that way, give birth to good children. And in that way, elevate society. But when elderly people and when people don't teach, that's the violence you see that Prabhupada speaks about, the violence of not spreading Krishna consciousness, not teaching, not being firm, being weak is very violent. Because such a person who is weak-minded, especially a man, they're not actually giving that protection that's necessary. And so this happens when men need to control their senses. So there's so many things to say about this, but women maintains the chastity of society by which we can get a good generation of peace and progression in life. So it all requires education, and it requires very serious protection from ideas. We think every person, including men, but women also think that I am immune to Maya. They think like that, and we think like that. We think sometimes that the statements in the Shastra apply to others, but not to me. I'm a devotee. The Shastra is written for devotees. The Shastra is written for those who are going to read it. That's devotees. And so we should think that actually this is applying directly to me, that I'm the most susceptible to these warnings in these situations in Shastra, that I'm not above them, that they're for me, and that I should very seriously heed to them and take them with reverence, rather than thinking I can take the easier path. We have to be very very careful about what we put in our ears, and that's where we got onto our topic of Gen Z slang. So then next 4 is the protection of children. So children are the ultimate level of society because child is the father of man. So when you raise children right, they become good, good men, good women, and that creates a wonderful society. So it's very important that one raise their children right. And so Krishna says, or the Bhagavatam explains, that one should not become a father, one should not become a guru, one should not become a husband, one should not become a mother, spiritual master, or worshipable demigod unless they can deliver their dependence from Maya. That's something we have to ask ourselves. And if we're ever considering going into these places, can I actually deliver my dependence from Maya? The best way to test that is, am I delivering myself from Maya? Am I staying out of Maya? I mean, one of the symptoms of devotional service is confidence. You should endeavor with confidence. And so if one doesn't have confidence in their own ability to be steady in Krishna consciousness, one should remain a student until they're able to be, if we can't remain students and we go in whimsically, I mean, we hear Vacho Vegam, Manasakrota Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udaprasta Vegam, Etam, Udaprasta Vegam, Vacho Vegam, Manasakrota Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udaprasta Vegam, Etam Vegam, Yogashadheta Dira, Sarvamapi Man Pratidim Sashashat. That you have to control these 6 urges, and then by controlling the 6 urges, one is qualified to become a guru or a teacher. So, in any case, whether one is in family life or as just a teacher, this tapo divyam, we must perform divine austerity, and we must be steady in our practice of sadhana, our practice of Krishna consciousness, our strength of conviction, and in that case, only should one have a child and understand that, when we go into something with lust, not just the sexual, but the idea of enjoying, children, enjoying family, enjoying it, when that is our consciousness, then we lost the consciousness of duty. So everything is done in a matter of duty, and duty, like we were speaking the other night, duty breeds respect. Respect breeds a happy family, a happy society. It's not this, oh, I love you, so sweet. This is only going to last for so long. In fact, it's total Maya. And the real love is that there's respect. And so a girl respects a man who is strong, and respects a man who is steady, and respects a man who is, despite all the emotional ups and downs that may come with the feminine nature, is going to maintain, not bend to that feminine nature for the purpose of my own enjoyment. A man respects a girl who is chaste and loyal. And when there's mutual respect, admiration, and appreciation, that's what real love is. Now, respect, deep admiration, and deep appreciation, gratitude. I'm grateful for you. I appreciate you. I admire your good qualities, and I respect you. That's love. The mode of passion may be present in the beginning for the purpose of begetting children, but that's really it. Continuing on. Okay, we'll go to the next verse. Any other points on that?
So I wanted to talk about that veganism really good. I mean, I don't think veganism is good. I mean, we need to take like animal products, but I think people are like wanting to become vegan because they see all the cruel things going in dairy.
I mean, there's good reason. There's good reason. No one's saying that it's bad reason, but there's a lot of atheistic philosophy that's against the Vedas in the vegan movement, where it's not appreciating cows because if we had the proper understanding, we wouldn't be going vegan. We'd be protecting cows. You see, we'd be stopping this altogether. There'd be a movement toward, the actual God conscious way rather than actually, the majority of vegans, they're all in the bodily concept of life. It's either, my health with my body, or I feel bad for the cows. I feel bad for this. That's also body. And so you see, it's a very disconnected bodily conception, sentimental thing, majority of the time. Whereas we're not vegetarians for moral reasons. We're prasaditarians. We eat that which is offered to Krishna. That's our consciousness, Otherwise, even if you're a vegan, still there's, you murdered that lettuce and you're gonna have to suffer. In Mayapur, there was this, at the Mayapur Institute, they have the kitchen there and they have these cages. And somehow it just is weird because it's cages, but in the cages they keep vegetables. And I was with Balaram Shakti, I said, look how they keep those vegetables in those cages. That's just so horrible. It was a really funny, laugh we had. This is such cruelty. Look at that cabbage in that cage like that.
So the cruelty, nowadays it's becoming so much more that I saw one documentary made by some it's from the what is in India. The dairy industry in India nowadays, every dairy industry, they usually take apart those cows away, and then but in India, they put so much those illegal drugs.
We can respect those who become vegan for that. We can respect that. We can honor that. We can also respect those devotees who choose to take dairy and offer that milk to Krishna, thus purifying those cows and feeling that dairy is a necessity. We can respect that also. Both are respectable positions. Prabhupada said, what can we do? We must take dairy. That was Prabhupada's position, but I have all respect for devotees who only want to drink protected milk.
And I was seeing movements from some devotees in India. They are kind of now rejecting all those dairy milk and trying to go towards local cows.
That's very good. And hopefully we can do that all over the world at some point. Hopefully we can do that all over the world. That's very positive. So I'd like to just finish this section here. I guess we can go to 6 because 7 we're going to get into a really beautiful section of Uttara crying out, which is really beautiful. So we'll do 6 and then maybe we'll see what we can do. Ya jayitva svamerastam tribir uttama kalpakai tadyasha pavanam dikshu shatamanyor ivatono. Lord Sri Krishna caused 3 well-performed Ashwamedha yajnas to be conducted by Maharaj Yudhisthira, and thus caused his virtuous fame to be glorified in all directions, like that of Indra, who performed 100 such sacrifices. This is something like a preface to the performance of Ashwamedha yajnas by Maharaj Yudhisthira. The comparison of Maharaj Yudhisthira to the King of Heaven is significant. The King of Heaven is thousands and thousands of times greater than Maharaj Yudhisthira in opulence, yet the fame of Maharaj Yudhisthira was not less. The reason is that Maharaj Yudhisthira was a pure devotee of the Lord. By his grace only was King Yudhisthira on the level of the King of Heaven, even though he performed only 3 yajnas, whereas the King of Heaven performed hundreds. That is the prerogative of a devotee of the Lord. The Lord is equal to everyone, but a devotee of the Lord is more glorified because he is always in touch with the All-Great. The sun rays are equally distributed, but still there are some places which are always dark. This is not due to the sun, but to the receptive power. Similarly, those who are 10% devotees of the Lord get the full-fledged mercy of the Lord, which is always equally distributed everywhere. So Yudhisthira, although not performing as many yajnas as King Indra, was just as opulent because he was a pure devotee of the Lord. And this is the qualification for all good things in life, that we become pure devotees of the Lord, mean that we are 10% into Krishna and his pleasure and his desire and his satisfaction. That'll make us always happy when we're thinking of Krishna's satisfaction. And it's not easily, it's there, we speak about it every day, but is it as easily understood as we think, oh, much of the time we think, oh, that was a good kirtan. But we're thinking, I liked that kirtan. We're not thinking Krishna enjoyed that kirtan. That was good prasadam. We're thinking, I enjoyed that prasadam. We're not thinking how Krishna enjoyed that prasadam. And so, a pure devotee genuinely thinks of Krishna's enjoyment, and is very much dedicated to that enjoyment of Krishna. And it manifests externally by, our relationship with devotees and our service relationship with the spiritual master. That's kind of indicative of our, our relationship with Krishna to some degree. So we want to be into Krishna's pleasure. And if we are, then everything comes. And so I was speaking recently that, most people in the world today are worried about money, worried about, maintaining body and soul. And this is an atheistic consciousness. Because money is the result of action. It's the result of where we put our attention, our love and our heart, where we put that energy. Money is a result of that. It's a karmic result, based on the past and the present and where we're putting our attention. And so if we give ourselves to Krishna and we put our attention on Krishna, then rather karma yoga means to focus on the action, not the result. So by focusing on the action and assuring that that action is positive and following Dharma, then we can rest assured that we will be sufficiently maintained by the Lord. And that's what we don't really care for anything else. We want to be maintained by Krishna. Thank you, Jamuna. Krishna. We want to be maintained by Krishna. And so if Krishna will maintain us, then we'll be successful. That's all. Let Krishna maintain me. I'm not asking for much. I'm just asking to be maintained and to do service. And so according to my service, according to my capacity, according to my karma, I'll be maintained, whether very opulently or not. The devotee is satisfied in any condition. So this symptom of worrying about money is a symptom of passion. Rather, we should focus on service, and that service, that action will result in the money. Now, what drains our money is distraction, which is distraction. You're going off track. You're going off the track. And so that is that, if you spend all day on your phone, that karma doesn't really generate. And how much money are you generating? How much, not money, but how much good punya are you generating? How much service are you generating? If we don't have a focus in life, we don't have a mission in life, then what question is there of getting what we need? So we have to perform our duty. Just like, somehow or another, I've managed to fly to India 3 times, and, spend money there and travel all kinds of places. It's not because I'm getting paid, but it's actually Krishna always somehow gives you what you need. Because that action, devotional service, will give you the capacity service you can perform. And but activities that drain money, like smoking cigarettes, drains your money. Drinking alcohol drains your money. Addictions drain your money. Because these activities don't develop. You're not putting out anything, and you're not getting anything but minimal back, or even bad, usually negative result, loss of money. And so when one is focused on that activity, which is a service to others, not selfish, but actual service, then Krishna will give abundantly. And so abundance rests in our ability to live in our heart and to act in Krishna consciousness and to plan for Krishna, to use our mind energy, our creative energy in the service of God, not in the service of self. Yeah. I think we'll stop here because we have a nice section coming up about Uttara. I really like it. She says some beautiful prayers. So we'll stop there. Hare Krishna. Any other points? Thank you. Nice to see you, Manju.